Hello again. One of my viewers who sends me an awful lot of information sent me a letter, or a copy of a letter that an airman had sent to the President of the United States, Barack Hussein Obama. And I want to read this to you, and if you think it's worthy, pass it along. Senior Airman Retired Brian Kolfage, that's K-O-L-F-A-G-E, is a real American hero. He has earned the right to speak out against the incompetence of the Obama administration, and so he does. Please take the time to listen to this open letter to President Obama, which he released through 100% Fed Up. Dear President Obama, my name is Brian Coolidge. I'm a triple amputee and retired Air Force veteran who was severely wounded on September 11, 2004 in Iraq. I nearly died in a war that most of your colleagues supported overwhelmingly, including the two presidents who came before you. Many citizens may not agree with waging a war in Iraq to free the oppressed Iraqi citizens, but it's something that warriors like myself have no control over. I joined to serve my country and to better my life. I've seen things that you could never imagine, and they have made me the person I am today. Mr. Obama, even though we have extreme opposite views, we have one thing in common. We both attended school in Hawaii. However, that's where the similarities end. You see, as you attended the exclusive private school, I would ride my bike to Kamaui High School in one of the roughest areas in Hawaii. Every morning I would ride past Punahou, the exclusive private school you attended, and I would notice all the Bentleys, Maseratis, and fancy foreign cars that all the kids were dropped off in. Wow, it must have been extremely rough in Hawaii living that life, right? I could only imagine what it was like to have that kind of money. Fortunately for you, not many people are aware of the school that you and the upper-class citizens of Hawaii attended. The tuition to attend your exclusive private school was more than it cost me to obtain a bachelor's degree in architecture from the University of Arizona. You talk a big game when it comes to financial inequity, yet I'm quite sure you have no idea what it's truly like to have to sacrifice. You were one of the elitist children in Hawaii. After high school, we each chose different paths. You were able to attend America's finest Ivy League schools, while I pursued a career in the military in hopes of earning a degree. What we have in life as different children usually helps to set the tone for how we achieve success later in life. I worked to get where I am today, while it was handed to you, Mr. Inequity. I volunteered to go to Iraq on both of my deployments, and the second time I begged to go even after I wasn't selected. During that second deployment, I was ultimately placed on a team where I would lose both legs and my dominant arm. Even though many Americans were against the war in Iraq, I've never asked myself if it was worth it after losing 3 of my limbs. I am frequently reminded of the many young Iraqi children who would beg me for water, food, and toys while I was stationed in Iraq. Children who in all aspects made the poorest of poor in America children look rich. You have no idea what it really means to be poor. It's laughable that you, who would have no idea what it means to be poor, would so frequently play the inequity card. While I was in Iraq, our mission was to liberate the Iraq citizens from a tyrant, and that's what we did. Never forget, it was your people who sent us there, like the Clintons, John Kerry, Nancy Pelosi, and Carl Levin. However, since the day you busted onto the scene, you've been talking about ending the war and pulling the troops out, not understanding the blood, sweat, and tears that so many Americans and Iraqis invested. And with complete disregard for every life sacrificed, every limb lost, and every broken family, you bailed on our mission to pursue an agenda that was completely centered on your re-election in 2012. If you didn't bail on Iraq, you were worried that you may not get re-elected, and that's a fact. Just before election on October 11, 2012, you said, quote, "Al-Qaeda is on the run and bi-Laden is dead," end of quote. Look at Iraq now. There are shambles, and the Al-Qaeda flag is flying freely. Clearly, you're unfit for duty as Commander-in-Chief. You put your own agenda ahead of America's agenda, and now you have single-handedly ruined and destroyed nearly everything we gained in Iraq. It clearly means nothing to you because the only thing that you've personally invested in this country was a promise to bail on them. However, people like me gave limbs, friends have died, and we've watched families destroyed by war's aftermath. I'm not blaming on you for the war. I'm placing blame on you for destroying what we've worked so hard to build. You're not a builder, you're a community organizer. A leader will have stood up regardless of the situation and put America's agenda first, and that is ensuring a secure Iraq even after 10 years of war. But you placed Barack first, just as Robert Gates confirmed in his new book. I can't help but think of those poor kids who I gave water and toys to 11 years ago. They're probably 15 or 16 years old now, and I can only imagine what it's like for them to have their nation being torn apart yet again, all because your poor leadership qualities. Regardless of why we went to Iraq, it's water under the bridge. We went there, we waged war, and we not only owed it to our killed in action, but we owed it to the citizens of Iraq. We invaded their country and turned it upside down, and you bailed on them. You bailed on our soldiers, and you've wasted every death and every limb. It's all for nothing. And to make matters worse, you blame others for your failures. You're just another elitist, rich thug who's pretended to live the tough life growing up in the inner city. You're only worried about your own agenda and furthering your party instead of taking care of Americans. Your inability to be a leader at some of the most critical points has caused both of our wars to fail. You've been a joke to most of our veteran communities, and we have no faith in your ability to lead. Senior Airman, retired Brian Coolidge, U.S. Air Force. You know, that almost makes me want to cry because everything that he said is absolutely true. You know what you have to sort of wonder? How could Obama, who came from a relatively poor family, have attended a private, exclusive school in Hawaii? This brings it full circle to what I've said all along. Obama is and was the Manchurian candidate. His entire life was financed by King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia. Please, if you think the letter that Brian sent is worthy, please pass it along.